Thank you. All right. Like I said, something a little different this morning. This is always the most exciting times for me because we're talking about one of my favorite topics, the trip to Honduras. I hope we can see the parallels as we've been studying through the book of Acts between, when we see and read about the missionary journeys of Paul and Barnabas and Silas and Timothy and all these great New Testament saints, that we don't just see that as theoretical Christianity or theoretical mission work. It's not only what they were called to do in their time, to go into all the world, to all nations, to make disciples, to seek and save the lost. That's what every generation from then on has been called to do since. And that's why trips like this are so exciting to me, because it's a time where I feel like I am literally stepping into the Bible. I feel that way in my everyday life as well. It's just I feel that way in a different way, because with a trip going to a foreign place comes unknown anxieties, hopefully not fears. I try to trust in the Lord and not be afraid. But there's an element of fear that creeps in, and all the same emotions that I feel like those early Christians must have felt. Not only that, but even then, when I have been on multiple trips now, I come back and I read about Paul, and I just say, well, Lord, thank you that I haven't had to be a part of any beatings yet, or that I haven't had to be a part of any shipwrecks. Of course, in our day, it could be like plane crashes or anything like that. Like I haven't had to, like all the crazy, difficult stuff that Paul had to go through, I've not had to experience. So the going to foreign places is the same, and sharing of the gospel is the same, but that's about where it ends as far as the similarities go. So you've seen some of this before, but I'm just going to go through a step-by-step kind of thing of what we do. Now, I'm always tempted, and I always have to scale back once I get going. I started building my slideshow, and I got about an hour into the building of the slideshow, and I had to stop, and I had to redo the whole thing. Because all I want to do is show you every single picture from the entire trip. But as I look back at the pictures that we have, between me and Rex, not to count the other guys, we have thousands of pictures. So it's like there's no way to do that. And when I come home from the trip every year, I want to show my family all the pictures that just I took. After about 20 minutes, all their eyes cross and they start to fall asleep on me. So I understand that. It's different for those that are there. It's a lot more exciting. And the pictures don't capture anything of the reality, which is the sad thing. But we start off, it takes 2 plane trips to get to Honduras from here. This year, our group met up with the Tulsa group, who we have up here up front, who's going to be on stage at the end. I have some questions they're going to answer. Our trip started this year for the first time in Wichita, our group, and we met up with the other group in Houston. We fly from Wichita to Houston, and then from Houston we fly to Honduras. I don't know if anything has changed, but there's only 2 airports in the United States that fly directly to Honduras, and that is the airport in Houston, George Bush Airport, and there's an airport in Miami, the big Miami airport. And as far as I know, that's still the case, only those 2 airports. So we very rarely go out of Miami. We typically always go out of Houston. But every once in a while, something weird happens, and we get a cheaper ticket or something to Miami. We travel by plane, we travel by bus, we get there. This is the big bus. We took a shorter bus this year because we had a smaller group. We typically always take that bus you see in the picture. I don't know how long those buses last, but they drive them until they completely fall apart, and then they don't replace them, they rebuild them. They rebuild every single inch of that thing. So lots and lots of time on a bus. And then we switched to the Land Rovers to go into the jungle. This is actually a picture that I took sitting in the front seat of the Land Rover. You can see the rain on the windshield in all those spots. And there's the other Land Rover with the other part of our group up ahead of us, and there's even a truck behind us on that particular trip. This is not this past year, but you can see what the roads look like. I mean, you can see a little bit of it. Looks like a cattle trail right there. But as we go into the mountains, Honduras is a country of mountains, so you're always in the mountains. But we go deep into those mountains, into the jungle, where there are lots and lots of people. Just another picture. This is from this past year of leaving the village that we were in. Just a picture of what the road looks like as I'm taking that out the window there. This year, it seems like they add something every year to make the trip a little bit more comfortable for us. This year, they installed these handrails in the Land Rovers. So when you're getting thrown all over the place, at least the people in the back can hold on. I ride in the front, and they're very gracious to let me do that. I guess because they're tired of me throwing up all the time. So I have two handles that I hold on, one on the dash and one up above my head up there in the front. There is enough room up there for someone small to squeeze up there with me, but typically people don't want to do that. I'm not sure why. So we travel. That's a big part of the trip just in general. We worship. Worship is a huge part of our trip. Here we have our missionary that we support in the middle there in the suit. That's Cristobal Ramirez. His wife, Elita. Their daughter, and you remember? Remember her name? Anybody? Say it again. Cecia. Yeah, his daughter, Cecia. And this is his dad. Now, his dad started the church that we worship at down there, like 50 years, more than 50 years ago. And he has passed on he's trained his son, and Cristobal now basically is the minister of the church now. And you see in the background some of the people there. We worship with the local congregation. It's very interesting, when we worship with the local congregation on Sunday morning, you don't understand a word of what's going on, but that's all right, because it's interesting, it's very sincere, and you feel it has a very powerful emotional feeling as you recognize that they're doing exactly what we do here. What's real interesting that we noticed this year about their communion service is they didn't have enough. And I'm going to try to help them out with this, but they didn't have enough communion trays to pass to everybody in the congregation. So they served communion to half the congregation. Then they rushed back up to the front. They pulled out juices. They refilled all the communion cups right as we sat there, and then repassed them to the back half of the church. They do also do something interesting that Rex was reminding me of the other day about their offering. They don't. They pass out the plates, and they take up an offering. And after the offering is taken up, then they have their prayer and thank God for the offering that has been collected. So they do that in reverse. But it's a real neat idea, and it makes sense. It makes sense to thank you, God, for what's been given type deal. Pretty neat. Here's Cristobal leading some songs. They usually do multiple song leaders during a service. Lots of prayers, lots of songs. There's no song books. All the people in the church just know the songs. They don't sing in any harmonies. There's no men parts, women's parts. There's no key. They don't even sing. People sing in different keys. It's kind of crazy. It's like me when I lead singing. You all are used to that. Whenever I try to lead a song every once in a while. But yes, loud. As loud. Everybody. It's like they all sing as loud as they possibly can. Which in the building that you're in, it is just like deafeningly loud. So it's pretty neat to be a part of that. If you're tone deaf, you'd love it. You'd love it. But we don't just worship at church. Here's a picture of Weston over here, at our breakfast. You can't see it at this table. There's a ton of people sitting at these tables at our breakfast hall at the place where we stay. We do devotionals every day before we start our day. Different guys on the trip do devotionals. Weston's doing a devotional to get us all pumped up and ready to go for the day to serve. We get to the village. Cristobal, he travels with us. He doesn't have to. You know, he's not paid to do this or anything like that. I mean, Cristobal travels with us to the village. He works with the kids in the village. He leads them in songs. He's singing a song that we sing that, my God is so big. That's what he's singing right there. He's saying, that's what he's saying right there. My God is so big, you know. In their version of the Lord's Army, because I don't understand the words, I don't know exactly what they're saying, but they actually have, when they're doing their I May Never March in the Infantry, they have like a bugle player in their version of the Lord's Army. They go like this type thing with their hand. So anyway, but we worship with the school, which brings us to the work. You know, so we travel, we worship, we work. This is a sign that was right outside of the village and school that we were working at. What that says, it says rural mixed school, mixed meaning boys and girls in the same school, because they have separate schools as well. But this is a rural mixed school that underneath that, that says New Dawn. That's the name of the school, the New Dawn. On the book you see there in the middle, it says Work, Study, and Discipline. And the school was founded in 2007. The community that we were in this year was called Los Laureles de Cuyamel, and that's just the name of the village. It says Catacamas, Alancho underneath there. Catacamas is just the closest city. I don't know why it even says that. Alancho is like, they don't call them states there, but that's the state that we're in Honduras. And the last thing at the very bottom says, it says donated by, and that's a lady's name, Reina Concepcion Vasquez. And that's a lady that paid for the school, the original school, to be built in 2007. So that's where we were. And when we arrive, this is the first thing we see when we arrive in the village. We have these kids up here. They're all holding a piece of paper that spells out, welcome to us, and or like welcome group or something like that. And they're all so excited. I mean, like you wouldn't believe the amount of excitement they have just when we arrive, just that we have showed up. This is one of the most exciting things that's happened in their life. Here they are. You see they all got their little feet stuck out here. Weston gets donations from the soccer teams that he coaches, of all these people that donate their kids' old soccer cleats. And Weston takes all those cleats down there, and we make sure that every kid in the village gets a pair of soccer cleats. We take them all kinds of stuff. But the soccer cleats is a huge deal. The soccer balls is a huge deal. So those are the kids we work with. Here's Rex. Here's a picture of him at the front of the classroom talking to the kids. This is a picture of the other part of the classroom of the kids looking back at him. They separate, they split the class in half, and half the class goes with Weston and Mason and Andrew and one of our interpreters out to a soccer field. I didn't even see the soccer field this year because it was like, how long was the walk, would you guess? At least a half-mile walk from our work site. So it's obvious why I didn't walk out there to look at it. I thought, I'm just going to walk out there and look at it? No, I'm not going to do that. So anyway, they had to go on a hike to go to the soccer pitch. And I'll show you some pictures of it. But Rex worked with the kids while Weston took the other half. Here they are. And here's how you can identify a soccer pitch. It's generally a semi-flat piece of earth, and you'll see over here. Here's a piece of a tree, another piece of a tree with another one lined up across the top. That is a goal. And so that's a soccer field down there. Of course, here's Weston over here. Here's Mason. Here's Andrew. And Andrew's another, we had two 15-year-olds with us this year. Andrew's the only one that's not with us this morning. And here they are working with the kids on soccer skills. Weston doesn't just do teach. He doesn't just teach like soccer skills to the kids, though. He also has devotionals with the kids and shares the Lord with them as well. Here we are at the end. These guys are at the end of the week, so they've got their little gift bags. We filled those with all kinds of stuff that we brought. Every kid at the end of the week, it's the big highlight. They don't realize it's coming. They all get a soccer ball. They've never had a gift like that before. That's one of those things that's just kind of heartbreaking. The other work we did this year, and the big part of what we paid for this year was the government, which obviously in Honduras cannot be relied on. The government told this village 7 years ago, if you build a new structure for a schoolhouse, if you can raise the funds to do that, which they had to do that on their own, then the government will pay for you to have a roof. That was over 7 years ago. So they've had a building structure built for 7 years, over 7 years, no roof. So they couldn't get out of their old dilapidated school building into a new schoolhouse, which they desperately needed, without a roof. So what we paid for, what would have cost probably between $10,000 to $15,000 here in the United States, cost $2,500 there to put a steel roof on this. Of course, we paid for these aluminum trusses and put a steel roof on this schoolhouse. Yeah, there's our group, and we did that in a day. Of course, it doesn't take that long when you've got a bunch of people to help, and you got the tools and everything, and you're ready to go. We got these guys here that are invaluable to us. This is one of our interpreters, and one of our drivers right here. His name is Angel, or Angel is basically what his name is. The other guy's name right here is an unusual name. His name is Cleofe. But Cleofe, not only do those guys don't have to work with us either, like do the physical work, but they act like it is their trip, like they bust it the whole time. And here's our trip coordinator, and we've worked with him a lot in the past, but now he's back with the organization. His name is Johnny. He's a great trip coordinator. Here's we had one more day of work that we did at the school of our construction guys. We had to get this floor ready so in the future they can pour a concrete slab eventually on the inside of that school building. So we had to bust up the ground inside of it and level it out. The ground there turns as hard as cement when you walk on it for a while. So we had to bust that up like it was cement. Of course, here you see Tyler's got this weird thing going on where his legs sweat like crazy. Sorry, Tyler. Yeah, so Tyler, there you don't see the end of that pickaxe, but here's Tom, and you see those pieces he's got right there that look like cement. We had to gather all that out of this entire building and carry it out and throw it down this hill. This is what me and Cristobal do while everyone's working. We eat blow pops. So, no, but Cristobal comes and does all this hard manual labor with us too. And like I said, he doesn't have to do that. But I try to, in addition to the work that we do, I try to distribute candy to everybody all the time. Just kind of like the candy man down there. And, but it's very funny to see a great big crew of guys that are real tough guys, every one of them with a blow pop in their mouth, as they're doing the work. The next day, as far as our physical labor went, we went back to the church building where Cristobal's church that we support, because we got the work done in the village we were working at. Half of our group went back to the village. The other half of our group went to Cristobal's village and mixed concrete, put it in, I don't know how many wheelbarrows full, but we worked there all day long, and we poured this great big concrete slab. That is deep cement right there too. I mean, we poured a deep slab. Cristobal was able to raise half the money to build half of the building. His $2,000 left to finish, and that's why we were raising some money for Honduras. It was particularly for this project. As of this morning, from what I know, we already had over 1,300 of the 2,000 raised. So we're less than $700 away from having the total 2,000 raised. If you'd like to contribute to that, just give any money directly to Rex, who is going to be sending the money that we raise to Cristobal to finish. What this is it's a giant kitchen. Now, one of the things that we pay for in our support of the church there is we make sure that the entire church is fed every Sunday after worship service is over. That is the best meal that anybody in that village gets for the entire week. Some of them, it's one of the only meals they get, for the entire week. And not only do they feed all of the church, they feed anybody who comes, which is possible because of us, because of the money that we send. And it's not that much money, like U.S. wise. It's very little money that we send down in the grand scheme of what you would think. But we send that money down. Now, what they do now is the women of the church, they all cook separately, and then they have to haul these gigantic pots to the church. And I say haul, walking and carrying. These people aren't driving vehicles. These women are carrying these giant, heavy pots of food to the church building. So what Cristobal wanted to do was build a gigantic kitchen right next to this whole building. Is going to be nothing but a kitchen where they will just prepare meals for the community. So that's what this is. That corner where you see with those cement blocks, that's where the stove is, and they section it off like that. I mean, because there's no AC down there, and it's so hot. Like, I've walked into multiple times on trips down there. I've walked into homes where the women were cooking. It's 100 degrees outside. You walk into that house where that woman is cooking, if they don't have a separate cookhouse, it's 120 degrees inside of that house in the shade where the ladies cook. And they're used to it, but that doesn't mean that it's enjoyable. Here's the T-shirts, the church T-shirts. Like I said, you can get one of these for $15, or if you want to support the Honduras mission, you can pay $20. But that's your choice. And there's a sign-up sheet for T-shirts, and you pay Kindle, or if you go online, you can only do the $20 option if you go online through the website. Next thing we do after the work, we build relationships. That's the most important part of the work we do. In the picture here, I've talked to you about this guy before. His name is Melvin. I met Melvin when he was this tall, when he was a little bitty kid. He and his brother, and in the past, his brothers, I don't get emotional there. Like, I'm just, nothing even emotional there, but when it comes, right? So, just got to take a breath. I'll talk about something that's not emotional for a second. He's holding this parrot over here. You see these parrots all over the place in the jungle. And what they do is, I've asked Melvin, like, how does every household have a parrot in their household? And he said, well, you just find a parrot nest out in the jungle. And he said, all you have to do is just wait. You wait for the parrots to have babies, and you climb the tree, and you steal a baby out, and you clip their wing, and then you got a pet. So that's what everybody does. Everybody steals baby parrots from the mama parrots down there. And but those parrots are super nice. Like, people just, you see him. That's not even his parrot. That's somebody else's parrot. But he just walked up to it and stuck his finger out. And it bit him first. But he's real tough, so he didn't care. Like, I would have probably cried, but, he just stuck his hand out, and the parrot bit him and then realized he was safe, so he crawled onto his hand. And anyway, but Melvin, he comes and works with us every year. Here's his brother, Jose, who comes and works with us every year now too. This is Jose's wife and their little son. Jose's wife, what's funny is when I first met her, she came up to me and I introduced myself to her, and she said, "Yeah," she said, I know you. And I was like, "How do you know me?" And she said, I know all of you all." And I said, "Well, I said, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. I don't remember you." She said, "Well, when the last time you saw me was when you all came and built latrines in my village when I was a little girl." So the people remember us down there. I'm known as that big guy. Here's our group heading back after the trip's over. This is just our driver pulled over and said, "Hey, if you want a cool picture, this is the place where everybody stops on the side of the highway and takes a picture." You can see the mountains in the background, and this super steep valley right behind us. So we all stopped and took us a picture there overlooking. So we not only do we build, relationships with the people there, we also, deepen our relationships with one another, while we're there. One of my great highlights of the trip is just growing closer to the people that I go with. Also build community. I mean, this is a teacher at the school with all those kids, and like I said, those people, they remember us forever. They'll remember us for life. And we don't realize even how much we alter the lives of the people that we contact when we go down there. But it's much greater than what we think. All right, at this time, I'm gonna have the guys come up and choose a seat across the front of the stage. It's not gonna be all me, so I'm gonna ask these guys some questions. So you guys grab a seat, and I'll grab my questions here. I'm not springing anything on them. I did tell these guys their questions in advance, so they're all super excited to be up here and answer these questions. So. Okay. Well, let me start with Rex. I'm not asking Rex a question. I'm trying to get on Rex's good side because I've embarrassed him in the past. So Rex asked Cristobal when we were there this year, our missionary, we'd love to get him here to speak to the church, but for one, he doesn't speak English, and for another, he doesn't have a passport. So he'd have to get a passport to come. He also has to get permission from his country to come, which is very, very difficult to do. So it could take years for him just to get permission, just to leave, just to visit. And it's a terrible, painful, expensive process. So we may not ever get him here, but he wanted to. Rex asked him if he wanted to say something to the congregation. So he does. He wrote a letter. Rex translated it, and he's going to read the letter from Cristobal and share a few other things as well.
There's a few other things we could say about Cristobal. Like it's been mentioned, it'd be good if he could be up here and more people could meet him, but that may be a while if that happens. But the things to remember about Cristobal is he works very tirelessly down there in conditions that Americans wouldn't accept. You've seen the roads, and we go to different villages that are miles apart, and until recently he had to walk all that time when we weren't there. He'd walk between villages, sometimes so far that he'd have to just camp overnight. He couldn't get back that day. And now in the last few years, he has a dirt bike he rides. And if you've seen pictures, very many of our pictures, you see that motorcycles are everywhere in Honduras. Basically, where we work, only dirt bikes and four-wheel drives, mostly Toyota pickups, can stand the roads, because that's all you see is motorcycles and four-wheel drives. But he's been very dedicated to work there. Besides doing the work there, he has the school for training people to be preachers. He mentions that in the letter I'll read to you. There's other things we could say about Cristobal, but he seems to be a very hard worker, and you'd be very proud to help support the work he does there. This year, to help us get more familiar, I asked him to write something to the church. I didn't know what he would write or how long it would be, but he wrote something I'd very much like to read to you. This is the letter that Cristobal has to address to this church. It is a joy for me to greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, wishing you all kinds of spiritual and material blessings. I was born in a Christian home. Since I was little, my parents taught me the fear of God, and that for me is my best gift. Today, God has blessed me by having people around me as beautiful as you are. To those who know me, but also those who do not know me, thank you for sharing with me the blessings that God gives you. I know that you sacrifice your income and that every month you send us money. Know that this helps me a lot in doing the work of the church. This week, I've had the joy of being with my brothers who are your representatives here in Honduras. We have had a great time and an unforgettable experience. The work in the church, it is very beautiful. We have a group of committed men here, and together we carry out this work. The church here in Las Delicias is growing. The current membership is 65 members, including young adults and the elderly. We have 25 children. The honor goes to our God. We also have a Bible school which helps men and women who want to prepare for the ministry of preaching with a duration of 2 years. There are already 2 classes that we have graduated, and in both of them, my brothers Wes and company have been with us, and I consider it a privilege to have them. I ask for your prayers for all the work we are doing. One day, God willing, it will be granted to meet you, shake your hands, and share a fraternal hug. I send you greetings, and also my wife and my daughter send you greetings to all of you. Thank you, my brothers, for everything. I love you in the name of our God. Cristobal Ramirez.
I'll have Weston go first because he's probably the longest speaker of everybody. It's actually, this is the first time that Weston's actually been here that I've been here, because I ask him to come and speak when I go on vacation. And so it's unusual having him here. It's also very hard for me to have him here without making fun of him and stuff, because that's just what I have done for so many years, because he's one of my best friends. And that's the way I show love. I make fun of people. So if you've ever been made fun of by me or given a hard time, it just means I love you that much. So Weston, where's the question? Okay. Having gone several times to Honduras, how many times have you been now? 8 times, yeah. 8 separate times. And Weston's a city boy through and through. I mean, this isn't his thing. He's not redneck like me. This isn't his idea of a good time, okay? I mean, off-roading and, doing stuff that's hard and stuff like that. It's not a good time to him. I had to beg him to go, But he's gone 8 times now. So I just want you to understand that. That's the only reason why I say that. So you think that doesn't sound fun to me, or that sounds like it'd be too hard for me, or that sounds like I wouldn't enjoy it. This is a guy that thought the exact same thing, but now he's been 8 times. So having said that, how has this trip changed you over time? I'll let you answer.
I just want to have a clarifying statement from Wes's comments. He must love me a lot. I mean, so I first started going on the trip in 2014, and it really did change my life in lots of ways. But to keep it short, my perspective on a lot of things have changed, and I thought of 4 biblical principles that it's changed my life. One is just a principle of humility. Going there in a different country and just seeing the differences in the culture and the lifestyles there, and seeing the joy and peace they have with so little has been extremely humbling and has changed my life. The second thing it's made me is grateful. It's made me grateful for all the things that I have, the trials that I go through, and the opportunities that God has given me. It just brings me more thanksgiving to God. And the third thing would be generosity. When I'm down there, I see these people who seemingly, from a materialistic standpoint, have very little, but yet they're so generous with everything they have. And then to see people like Dan and Rex and Wes, and they're just continually giving of their time and resources, it's caused me to become more generous, and I want to give more to help others. And then finally, just a real simple, Jesus' commandment to us to love others. Being down here, going to Honduras and even coming and visiting here, it just teaches us that, God calls us to love others. And we're to love them where we are, and we're to love them where they are. And this has really given me a heart to serve, to give of my time, my resources, my energy, and even financially, just to help our brothers and sisters around the world.
Thanks, buddy. All right, Mason. What would you? And you don't have to stand up. And Wes, I did, and Rex did, and Wes did, but you don't have to. Just so you know. What would you say, Mason? This was Mason's first time to go. He's 15 years old. 15? Okay, I thought that was right. What would you say to other young people who would consider a trip like this?
All right, well, I'm not going to speak as long as my dad. Not near as long as my dad. But it's a great experience. It's definitely worth it. The locals there are very friendly. And our group, we get to have a lot of fun together. We swim, we eat, we play games, we hang out a lot, and it's a great time.
Yeah, I mean, when people think about missions, I think a lot of times they think about they just think about just the hard work of it all, But we make sure that on the trip that in addition to the hard stuff that we do, we have as much of a good time as we possibly can because. And we also try to show that to the people there. Like when our group goes swimming, we take all of our work group with us. We get as many people that are locals to go with us as possible. We want them to know hey, we didn't just come here to do a little bit of work and then go home. We came here to do everything with you all, to eat with you, to visit, to play games with you, Mason brought this game down there this year. Called Bean Boozled, and I don't recommend it. It's there's these jelly beans, and you don't know if you're eating a good flavored jelly bean or something that tastes like the most disgusting thing you ever had in your life. But the locals, they absolutely went wild over that game, and it was so disgusting. But it was a bonding thing between everybody. There's a ton of fun. The swimming isn't just for fun. The swimming is a necessity. That's like our air conditioning. At the end of the day, when your body's hot and there's no way to cool it off, no way to get your core body temperature back to where it needs to be comfortable, we get in the river. I get in the river up to neck deep and just sit there for an hour and a half, and then my body gets cool again, and then I feel good again. But that's how we cool off at the end of the day. So it's fun and it's a necessity as well. This is Tom here in the middle, and let's see, where's Tom's question? Okay, here we go. Tom, this was your second year to come. So he went last year, he came back again this year. I always love that. I mean, people either do that or they don't. Typically people either love it or they just don't. But Tom, I was very excited last year when he said you can count on me to be back the next year, and he came back. So Tom, my question for you is, what made you want to come back a second time?
I have 3 answers to that question. First, it is just the camaraderie and the friendship with these guys. It's hard to beat that. Second one's kind of selfish as well. It's nice to go somewhere for a week where everyone's just content. The people don't have much, but they're content with what they have. Here, everybody wants more, and it's good to get away from that for a week. The last one is, I feel like we get to be a blessing to the people there. Rex teaches the children. Weston and Mason do the soccer camp. That leaves Tyler and me to do some work, and Wes to stand in the shade and eat his candy. But I think we're more in the way than we are good at doing the work. The people there work so much harder than we can. But I think it's a blessing to them just to show that we are willing to come and spend our time with them.
You know, it is an interesting thing. Like, they know that we can't, they know that they're going to outwork us. Like, we've taken people down there before that were among the strongest, hardest workers I've ever known in my life, and they can't keep up with those guys. I mean, because they've done that nothing but hard manual labor since they graduated from school at 6th grade. That's typically as far as anyone goes, 6th grade, and then they go to work. And it's not easy work. It's hard manual labor. So you can't compete with a guy that's done that his whole life. You just can't. But they love that we're there with them. Like, they love that we don't just like, oh, here's the money for the project, now you do it. They are super encouraged that we're there working with them. They love that. It's not about, it's not about how good you are at any particular thing down there. They want us there. They want to build that relationship as just like we do. All right. Let me pull your question up here, Tyler. And I got one more question for everybody afterward, if it's an easy one. So, Tyler, this is Tyler's second year to go. And I said to Tyler, this being your second year, what was the biggest difference between your first year and your second year?
And just to clarify that weird sweating thing, that's called work. That's what I was doing. So, I think the biggest difference this year was kind of knowing what to expect. Made me a little bit more confident. I know last year, me and Wes had talked a lot about the trip, but it doesn't really prepare you to what to expect and what you're going to go through on the trip. And I think that having a smaller group kind of led to being able to jump in right away and just look for opportunities to lend a hand to help out. So I think this year, the smaller group and everything just gave me more confidence, and also kind of, I made a conscious effort to kind of listen and see how the Lord kind of led me all week, and what I could do to help. So.
All right, and just the last question that I'm just going to spring on everybody. I'm just going to ask everybody, what was just the single thing that you enjoy most about the trip?
Mine's twofold, and it would be the relationships that we build with our team and with the locals there every year. And then the second thing would be knowing that I'm part of working for the Lord, like doing work for the Lord.
Well, my favorite part was swimming in the river. I mean, that was great. Super fun.
Since Weston cheated and gave 2 answers, I'm going to do the same thing. My favorite thing every year, or it's only been twice, but is to worship with the people there Sunday morning. It's a great experience, even though I don't understand what's going on. But this last year, I think one of my favorite things was when we went to the village the first day. Wes and I were riding in the back of a pickup truck so we wouldn't get so motion sick. And the road went straight up the mountain. So we decided to be safe, we would get out and walk straight up the mountain. Yeah, after about 3 steps, a couple of fat boys realized we made a big mistake. So we decided to risk it the rest of the trip. But it was a great bonding experience.
I think my favorite is just the experience with the kids and seeing their faces at the end of the week from all the, it brings a lot of joy to somebody to see people react that way to things you give them. I know we're not really used to that here most of the time, but they're very grateful for everything we do for them.
I guess it'd be the response of the kids, like the ones in the picture there. We've been to several different villages, different kids. I mean, it might seem like that maybe we go back to the same village every year, but we don't go to the same place every year. We may never see these children again, but all the groups have been very receptive, and it's a challenge to communicate with them, but they're great kids to work with, and that's very encouraging when you work with little kids.
My favorite part, which I feel like is kind of a selfish type answer. My favorite part is preaching on Wednesday night. They turn over the church to me on Wednesday night, and it's a challenge because I say a sentence, and then I have to pause. I have to let the interpreter interpret what I said, and then so really the interpreter is, I'm preaching to the church, but the interpreter is also preaching to the church. So it's basically I'm preaching, but like everybody's looking at him, So it's just it's a unique experience. But it's also, I want you to understand this too, like there's truly no difference between my preaching here and my preaching there. And that's how you know that you're teaching the gospel as it is intended by God to be taught. The gospel message does not change people group to people group, culture to culture. The gospel remains the same no matter who the people are. And if you're having to alter the message or if you feel like you're altering the message because of the group of people you're talking to, you're doing something wrong. Like that's a warning sign. Like you're not, whether that's me altering a message for you all or whether it's me altering a message for them, the message should be the Bible being taught. And not only am I committed to that, but the church they're as committed to that as we are. And they are a rock solid church. I want you to know when Cristobal said that there's 65 members at the church and 25 children, he's not counting those. He's not counting those children as members. But so that's 90. The church has 90 people in it now. When I first started going down there, the church had about 35. So they've increased, threefold since we've been going. And I want you all to realize, too, that that's a big part of what you all are doing that is bringing more people to the church. A lot of those people, if Cristobal just goes to their home and invites them, hey, come to the church on Sunday morning and hear the word of God, lots of people down there, just like here, they're not going to give it a chance. But when he says, hey, come to the church on Sunday morning, we'll feed you a meal. There's going to be, not only are you going to have rice, there's going to be some meat on top of that rice. People don't eat meat hardly ever. Like meat in a meal, with a meal, is a rare thing in their culture down there. It's typically rice and tortillas and beans at every meal. And but when he says, hey, come to the church, we'll feed you a meal, and you'll get to hear the word of God, it's not necessarily the word of God that brings them there. It's the message, but Cristobal has converted all of those people when they've come. So the meal may have been what led them there, but the gospel is what keeps them there. And when he says there's 65 members at the church, there's far more people at the church. Those are just people that he hasn't converted yet. So there's a lot more people there than what even meets the eye, but he's not counting the ones that haven't made a decision to follow Jesus yet as being members, which is right. You guys can go on down. I appreciate it. Hey, everyone, give these guys a round of applause. I really appreciate them. That's a lot harder than what it looks to come and look at all you people and talk to you. It's not hard for me, but I was born without that part of my brain or whatever, so I don't know why it doesn't bother me. It bothers most people. So I really appreciate those guys being able to share that. If you have any questions, always, for me or any of these guys, then feel free to ask any of these guys questions. I'm sure they'd love to answer questions about the trip and their experiences. We also, if you ever want to see more pictures, let us know. We've all got pictures, lots of pictures to share. And I want you to see, I don't want a service like this where we share what we did on the trip. I don't want this to feel like it's, sometimes you may feel like, well, we didn't learn a whole lot at church on this Sunday. Well, learning learning more of the Bible while we're at church, that's just part of what our worship to the Lord is. If all we ever do is learn, but we don't put these things that we learn into practical practice, both at home and away in other places, then what are we doing? You know, we're just spinning our wheels. And you know, I want not only myself but everyone in this church to take their Christianity, take their following of Jesus like so seriously that you implement it in as many areas of your life as you possibly can until you ultimately just see your life as ministry. Which I think if you ask Jesus, if we had Jesus here and we were able to ask him, Jesus, what part of your life, you couldn't even say the question like this. You couldn't even say it like, Jesus, what part of your life did you consider ministry while you were on earth? I think you'd have to say, Jesus, was there any part of your life that you didn't consider to be ministry? I think he'd say, it was all ministry. My entire life was ministry, what it's supposed to be. If you're here today and you've not committed to following Jesus with your life, we want you to know that today is a day that you can do that. If you have committed your life to following Jesus, but you haven't done it, and you need the prayers of the church for some reason, we would love to pray on your behalf as well. If there's any way that we can serve you this morning, come on forward as we stand and as we sing.